Have you ever felt that sudden shift? When something just doesn't feel right anymore? He's still around, still replying, still technically there, but your heart can sense the distance. His messages don't feel the same. The warmth in his voice has cooled. You smile on the outside, but deep inside, there's a quiet ache that keeps whispering, something's changed. You start questioning yourself. Am I just overthinking? But the truth is, a woman's intuition is rarely wrong, especially when love begins to feel like a guessing game. When a man starts giving pieces of himself to someone else, emotionally, mentally, or even physically, he may not say it out loud. But his silence becomes louder than words. You see, in our culture, especially in Indian relationships, there's a lot that goes unsaid. We are taught to compromise, to wait, to adjust. But how do you adjust when your heart senses another presence in his life? When he's holding his phone tighter, when he's suddenly busy more often, when he looks at you, but it doesn't feel like he's seeing you. This isn't about doubting him for no reason. This is about trusting your deeper knowing. Because when a man is hiding another woman, he doesn't always lie with words. Sometimes, he lies with the way he pulls away. Slowly, quietly, until you begin to feel invisible. Welcome to the Silent Strategy, where we master the game of love in silence. Here, we don't chase clarity, we create it. We don't beg for attention, we embody presence. And we don't break down over mixed signals, we decode them. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 subtle yet powerful things a man often does when there's someone else and he's hiding her from you. These aren't textbook signs. These are emotional truths, patterns you've probably sensed but couldn't quite explain. And this video isn't just about him. It's about you reclaiming your clarity. It's about peeling back the confusion and stepping into the truth you've been trying to avoid. Stay with me till the very end, because with each section, the fog begins to lift. And by the end, you'll have the clarity you've been searching for. You know what's strange? A man doesn't always lie with words. Sometimes, he lies with energy, with time, with emotional posture. When he's hiding another woman, he doesn't start with a confession, he starts with a shift. He might still text, "Good morning," but it feels like he's ticking a box, not reaching for your presence. He might still show up on date night, but it feels like he's there physically and somewhere else emotionally. And when you bring it up, he gaslights softly. "Why are you being so negative? You're imagining things again." But let's be clear, your body isn't imagining anything. It's responding to an emotional drift that has already begun. See, when a man is guarding the presence of another woman, his entire psychology bends inwards. He starts conserving emotional resources. You'll notice it in the way he avoids eye contact during vulnerable conversations, in the way he touches you more out of habit than hunger. Here's what that really means. He split, not just between you and her, but between his guilt and his desire. And that emotional split shows up in strange, almost poetic ways. One of the most telling behaviors? Strategic attention. He'll be overly sweet after being emotionally distant for days. He might bring you a gift, not because he was thinking of you, but because he's trying to quiet his conscience. That's not love. That's a performance. And the tragedy is, we often accept the performance because it feels safer than confronting the emptiness behind it. Sometimes, he'll suddenly become generous with compliments, but guarded with plans. He'll say you mean everything to him, but somehow never has clarity on the future. That's not confusion. That's calculation. When a man is emotionally loyal, he plants roots. When he's hiding someone else, he floats. Untethered, unavailable, but still within reach, just enough to confuse your boundaries, blur your instincts. And has a cruel irony. He may even become more physically affectionate, especially when he senses your intuition stirring. Why? Because subconsciously, he's trying to re-anchor your trust before you look too closely. That's not intimacy. That's insurance. You'll also feel something deeper. An emotional emptiness right after moments that should have felt full. After a date, after sex, after a long phone call. Something inside you feels hungry. It's not neediness. It's your soul recognizing the absence of real connection. So when he suddenly gets more possessive about his phone, when he starts answering calls in the other room, when he blames work for every emotional withdrawal, understand this isn't random. It's a pattern of protection. Not for you, for the other emotional reality he's building. This doesn't mean every distracted man is disloyal. But when the pattern repeats, when your heart senses a duality he refuses to name, when your questions feel like threats to his comfort, that's when you must stop arguing with your gut and start listening to your knowing. Because a man can fake enthusiasm. He can mimic intimacy. But he cannot lie consistently to a woman who is deeply rooted in herself. A man's emotional betrayal rarely walks through the front door. It seeps in through the cracks, like a draft in a once warm room. And if you pay attention, it's not just in what he does. It's in what his energy has stopped doing. Because when he's hiding another woman, his soul becomes tangled in symbols. And so does yours. Have you noticed it? How your body becomes more alert in his presence, but not in the good way. It's not butterflies. It's your intuition turning into a lighthouse, scanning a dark shore for signals. You're not paranoid. You've become a silent radar. That's not insecurity. It's unhealed fear responding to invisible truths. Here's what no one tells you. When he begins giving part of himself to another, he unconsciously starts testing the boundary of your emotional awareness. He might say something or just to see if you catch it. He might leave his phone screen facing down, not because he's hiding a text, but because he's hiding a truth. The act isn't just physical, it's symbolic. Like closing a curtain in a room you used to share. You'll feel it in the micro behaviors. The delayed replies that weren't always delayed. The loss of emotional echo when you open up. He listens, but he doesn't hear. That's not distance, that's emotional relocation. His heart has moved. It just hasn't forwarded the address yet. Think of love like a magnet. When a man is drawn to you, your presence pulls him in. But when his emotional metal starts attaching elsewhere, your magnet still pulls. But now it meets resistance. You feel like you're chasing connection in a fog. That fog? It's the emotional smog created when he's hiding a second orbit, a second center of gravity. And the hardest part? He doesn't always realize he's doing it consciously. This is where the subconscious dances. A part of him may still care for you, but care is not the same as commitment. Desire is not the same as devotion. He might stay physically present because it's comfortable, but his emotional GPS is rerouting quietly, calculating a new destination behind your back. Sometimes, he'll start arguments for no reason, or become cold after you express warmth. That's a silent test, not of you, but of how much freedom he can create without breaking the illusion. It's a boundary test in emotional disguise. He's not looking for truth, he's checking how far he can stretch the silence before you scream. You see, love isn't always destroyed by what's said. Often, it collapses under the weight of what's never said. The glances not held. The hands not reached for. The apologies that stay buried because admitting guilt means facing a mirror he's not ready for. And you? You feel the ghost of someone else before you ever meet her. That's the cruel magic of emotional betrayal. It always enters your intuition before it enters your reality. You start questioning your worth not because of what he says, but because of what he no longer says. Because you can feel him emotionally rehearsing a new script with someone else while pretending to still be in the old play with you. It's a performance, not a partnership. A performance you're being asked to applaud with silence. But here's where your power begins. The moment you stop translating his coldness into self-blame and start translating it into emotional truth. Because silence is not always peace, it can also be punishment. And you are never meant to be the background noise in someone else's double life. Ready for the real-world emotional strategies? Let's continue. You've been in the room with him and still felt alone. You've smiled at your phone, waiting for a message that comes hours late or not at all. And you've doubted yourself, wondering if maybe you're just being too sensitive. But love isn't a performance. It's presence. And presence is not something you should ever have to beg for. So let's shift the energy. Let's stop reacting and start responding from self-trust, not fear. You don't need to catch him. You need to center yourself. That starts with one sacred pause. Before you text, before you ask, "Where were you?" Before you re-explain your value to someone who's pretending to forget it. That pause? That's the difference between chasing answers and embodying truth. He feels your emotional frequency even when you say nothing. So when he hides another woman, he's also hiding from your depth. Because real feminine presence, it mirrors back his misalignment. And that can be terrifying for someone who's trying to live two emotional lives at once. So instead of confronting with panic, begin to speak from poise. That doesn't mean you become cold. It means your warmth becomes intentional. Instead of asking, "Why didn't you call?" ask yourself, "Do I feel emotionally fed here?" That shift changes your tone from anxious to anchored. And he feels it, even if he can't name it. The next time your gut tightens around his silence, don't perform closeness. Don't send an emoji to fill the gap. Don't play the cool girl just to keep him interested. Instead, offer space, not as punishment, but as power. Your absence is not revenge. It's revelation. It shows him what your presence truly held. Here's the secret most women forget. It's not your availability that makes you valuable. It's your energy, your clarity. When you begin to respond from that place, your words become fewer, but heavier. Your boundaries stop sounding like ultimatums and start feeling like truth. Instead of accusing him, you might calmly say, "Something's changed between us. I don't feel as emotionally close to you. I won't pretend that I don't notice." That kind of sentence, it's not dramatic. It's disarming. Because it puts the mirror in front of him without chasing him into it. And when he tries to flip the script, make you feel guilty for sensing distance, gently return to self. I'm not here to argue about the details. I'm here to be honest about my experience. That's the voice of a woman who doesn't abandon herself for approval. That's the woman who makes a man choose, confront his shadow, or lose her light. In moments of confusion, return to your core question. Is this love nourishing me? Or is it asking me to starve while smiling? Don't try to compete with the other woman. That's not your battlefield. The real battle is between you and the part of you that thinks you must stay to prove your worth. You don't. You never did. Emotional safety is not created through control. It's cultivated through clarity. Through silence that speaks, not screams. Through presence that pulses with self-respect. This is the silent strategy, the art of mastering the game of love without shouting, without chasing, without losing yourself. So here you are. Maybe your heart is still heavy. Maybe you're staring at a relationship that once felt like home, and now feels like a hotel someone else has secretly checked into. But breathe. Not the shallow breath of survival, but the deep inhale of self-return. You've seen the signs. You've listened to your body whisper what your mind tried to silence. And now, you know, not just about him, about yourself. You know that your intuition isn't a flaw, it's a compass. That your longing for connection is sacred, not needy. And that when a man begins to emotionally drift, the real betrayal isn't just in his actions. It's in how long you let your soul sit in the waiting room, hoping he'll remember your worth. But here's the shift. You don't need to wait. There's nothing more powerful than a woman who stops asking, "Why is he hiding her?" and starts asking, "Why am I hiding from my own knowing?" Because you can't control whether he comes clean. But you can choose to come clean with yourself. You can stop rehearsing the same anxious thoughts, stop decoding every text, stop adjusting your volume just to keep his attention. You are never meant to be half-loved. And you don't need to audition for loyalty. Sometimes love doesn't leave with a bang. Sometimes it dissolves in silence. But when that silence becomes your teacher, not your jailer, you transform. You become untouchable in the most magnetic way. Not because you're guarded, but because you're grounded. So here's your moment. Right now, sit with this. Journal this if it helps. Was the noise around you and write? Where am I performing peace while holding pain? What version of me is shrinking just to keep him comfortable? If I trusted that I am the prize, what would I no longer tolerate? These are not journal prompts. These are emotional keys. Because when you remember who you are, you don't chase love. You become it. You radiate it. You walk into rooms, into relationships, into silence, and you don't shrink. You shine. And when the next man comes along, and he will, you won't measure his love by how often he texts, but by how deeply he shows up. You'll no longer confuse consistency with connection, or attention with intention. You'll know what peace feels like, and you won't trade it for potential again. So if this video spoke to something tender inside you, speak back. Share it. Comment below. Not for me, for you. Let your voice rise, gently, quietly. Let this be your mirror, your turning point. Maybe even your last moment of pretending not to see what your soul already knew. This is the silent strategy. Master the game of love in silence. Not to play, but to protect your peace, to preserve your power, to choose you without noise, without war. Because the woman who learns to sit with herself in truth becomes the kind of woman no one can lie to again. You don't have to chase love. You become it.